Hey, welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. Pick up a free hat and or shirt every single year. You are a diehard. I'm Johnny Venerable, joined by the returning Bo Brack, live at the PHNX headquarters in downtown Phoenix. Bo, picking up where we left off with the old Minnesota Vikings.
That's right. Nothing's happened. I didn't think that was going to be the case. I was under the impression as soon as that I get out of self-service, Arizona Cardinals were going to play and make a deal. And that hasn't happened. Actually, when I returned today, it seems like Kevin O'Connell is trying to play some hardball through the press, the league meetings that I was at, but I was busy talking to the Arizona Cardinals head coach, Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, so you were at the league meetings last week, and at the same time, we covered this yesterday. Kevin O'Connell basically came out and said, I think our 2 first-round picks are plenty good enough. If anything, it's better than having maybe multiple in future years. And while I can appreciate Kev, our buddy Kev's, position on the situation, I'm going to say it's skewed. And also, as the chat pointed out yesterday, Bo, those picks aren't early. These aren't early picks. 11 and 23. We know where they are. Whereas even though the Vikings have their act together, you can still talk yourself into, if you're Monty Ossenford, 2025, maybe even 2026 future picks. Your team could be a disaster. We know right now, 23 is not in the top half of the first round. That's indisputable.
Right. We've got a quote that I think is going to kind of raise some eyebrows, especially with our informed audience. And it's great to see everybody in the chat already, all 150 plus of you. Dana and Arizona Animal, Ozzy, what's going on? Eli, Omnideus. You got so many people, Jules Felix, Illini, McGee, the whole crew here, Jack Smith, everybody hanging out, having a good time talking Cardinals football. And you got Kevin O'Connell trying to be a shrewd negotiator. And it's our newest game show that we want to introduce. We want to pitch. It's called Fuck Around and Find Out.
Go ahead, one of my favorites. I love that one.
Yeah, it's
one
great.
of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, come on down. Minnesota Vikings. You want to roll the dice on the quarterback position and the future of the quarterback position? You already lost Kirk Cousins. You want to figure out what it looks like with a quarterback like Sam Darnold that the Jets passed on, Carolina Panthers passed on, the San Francisco 49ers, they had him, and they're like, go ahead, go do what you want to do. We're not going to miss you. We can figure out, we can get another backup quarterback because that's what you are. If you want to roll the dice, then go ahead and find out what that looks like for a Vikings team that has to get a deal done with Justin Jefferson. You think he's going to like that if he has to throw away a full season catching passes from Sam Darnold?
Damon and I brought it up yesterday. Look at the NFC North suddenly. Jordan Love, franchise quarterback, led the NFL in touchdowns last year. Jared Goff's in a quarter and a half away from going to the Super Bowl for the second time. He's supposedly going to get a new deal from the Lions. And oh, by the way, the first overall pick, generational prospect, Caleb Williams is joining your division coming this fall. And you're going to say, you know what? We're okay. Yeah. We've got our guy, Sam Darnold, who, to your point, has been with about 5 other organizations. You think that, Kevin O'Connell talks to Kyle Shanahan. Sam Darnold was in San Francisco, Santa Clara last year. They know he's not equipped to start a season for them. He can start a game or 2, a la Dobbs last year. He's got the skill set, and surprisingly, Darnold's only still 26 years old. But you're not building around him. And I think, again, this report that we're going to talk about here in a second, do I think the Cardinals are asking for a lot? Yes, and they should. Do I think the Vikings, for a second, are going to kick the can down the road? I do not. I think this is all posturing. Yeah. I think this is the Vikings saying, we need to take a breath. We're comfortable with Sam right now until, games start. And you have to trot out the old USC bust in a division that's tailored now and equipped with franchise quarterbacks, Bo.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Kevin O'Connell. He's playing his role in a hard-nosed negotiation, right? I mean, everybody has their role to play. You got Kwesi, you got Monty Ossenford, you got Jonathan Gannon, you got everybody that's, got what they're supposed to say at this point, because this isn't an easy deal to iron out. The framework, it makes sense. To you and me, it's simple. The Arizona Cardinals, they can't pull the trigger on the deal unless it includes 3 firsts. Right. And then some change, right? Because that's what recent history has told us is the price, the price of negotiation there. But ironing it out, everything, it's going to take, every bit of the time between now, the 23 days, and when the Arizona Cardinals are actually on the clock. Now, you hope they can figure it out, but each team is making its case, right? And they're trying to make this deal in some way fall into the favor of their team right now, because they're not up against it exactly. I mean, they've got 3 weeks to iron this thing out. And I think that the Vikings, they're confident that they can outbid anybody. And the Arizona Cardinals, they're confident that they still have all the leverage, being the next team on the draft board, if you want to get up and get a quarterback. So
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because I think this plays a factor. We're talking about the QB tax and what it costs. It's never cost this much to come up to pick 4. Do you think this is a little bit posturing by the Vikings, saying, like, how are we going to sell this to our fan base that we're going to pay this much for the draft's presumed fourth best QB? He may not end up being McCarthy, the 4th best quarterback, but for a night, he's going to be the 4th QB selected, and you're going to have to sacrifice 3 first-rounders. Do you think that plays a part in that?
Well, it plays back to the interview yesterday that you had with Baldy, which was fantastic, by the way. I highly encourage you to check it out. Brian Baldinger rejoined PHNX Cardinals yesterday and talked a lot about this draft and, the trade down. But the Vikings, whoever's there for, they have to have a strong conviction in that player. Like, they have to be as strong a conviction as they got to have it pretty much nose and nose with Drake May, who everybody's connecting the dots because McCown coached him in high school for a season while his son was on the team. And, you've got Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner, and Caleb Williams is out of the conversation because he's a lock at 1. Yeah. And then you got this JJ McCarthy, who's a bit of a draft enigma, who at the beginning of this draft process was an outsider to the first round. And, maybe he's a fringe first rounder, maybe he's in the 20s, maybe he's in the teens. And then he just rocket fuel up into the top 5. And, how is a team going to sell a fan base on that? They're going to have to do it by making sure he's a legit prospect and that he's going to be a guy that they can potentially, ride for the next half decade to a decade. I mean, he's got some large shoes to fill. I mean, as corny as Kirk Cousins was, he was a top 10 quarterback in this league, and they've got to replace that production. And they didn't do a very good job of it last year. They brought in Dobbs, who was a lightning in a bottle, but that has a short shelf life. We all know that firsthand. But then that all should show, like, hey, you can't mess around with this. You got to be able to find and identify a prospect that you could bring in, got the infrastructure, at least you feel confident in that, but that you can develop, that's going to be able to take the step, in transition from the NCAA to the NFL ranks.
Yeah, it's just a really hard sell, I'm sure, for Vikings fans. And that's why, they're using kid gloves in this instance, because everything that they're saying publicly would support the narrative that they're just going to kind of wait and see. But everything behind the scenes suggests, like, they're trying to be aggressive to move up. Now, I do think it's fascinating. Like, I don't think they're getting anywhere with New England. I don't think that was ever a realistic landing spot. You've got significant odds now that either Drake May could be the 2nd overall pick, and then if he's not, unequivocally, he's the 3rd overall pick. Like, the Commanders are now re-engaged with the idea, at least per Vegas, that it's a coin flip between Jaden Daniels and Drake May. Well, whomever doesn't get selected there is going 3rd overall.
Right.
Like JJ McCarthy is not a top 3 quarterback in this draft. So not only do you have to sacrifice a bunch of first rounders for pick 4, you also have to do it for a guy who didn't throw for 3,000 yards last year. Baldy told me this. I'd forgotten. I'd watched this game live. JJ McCarthy was not asked to throw a second half pass against Penn State, which is flipping nuts. And they ran the ball for like 8 yards per carry in that second half. And then, oh, by the way, had like 22 touchdown passes. So, but the cost is the cost is the cost.
That was the game where the guy filling in for Harbaugh was crying. Remember the post-game comments and stuff like that? That was
great. They couldn't trust Harbaugh not to be there enough for JJ McCarthy to throw a pass in the second half. And you've got our sweet baby boy, Jim Harbaugh, going around saying he's the best QB in this class. He didn't throw a pass. Now, he didn't need to, because that team was so elite and Harbaugh is such an ass kicker himself. The infrastructure was there. But I think this play, if you see this today and you see the odds are back in favor of MHJ going 4th overall. Our friends in Vegas have gone from -125 to -200. Now, the situation is very touch and go, but I do wonder if we get to a point where Austin Ford's just like, don't call me. Like Josh Norris posted that video
Yeah.
on Twitter today. We've all seen it from Flight Plan, like Monty cooking. And while I do think like we're going to get a version of that this year, I am still of the mindset. I do not think the Cardinals are going to trade on the clock. I think if they trade, they're going to trade pre-draft the day of, the week of, and then it's been like we didn't get to cover this last week. Benjamin Albright's putting it out there. Cardinals are going to try to trade down, then trade back up. Like that's out there. And then we're going to talk a little bit later. Malik Nabers is at, the facility in Tempe and Glendale, like visiting with the Cardinals today. So presumably you'd have to trade back up to get Malik Nabers. So a lot of moving parts with this. But right now, I mean, Vikings, until they do a deal, it's Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick 4 for the Arizona Cardinals.
It's one of those things I'm not going to ever be comfortable saying, like confidently, like that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be an Arizona Cardinal. I want to say it. I want to go to the top of Camelback Mountain. I want to hold hands with Damon Dog. Just like as he's holding the line, I say, you know what? Let's put our differences aside and let's celebrate this together and scream at the top of our lungs.
You still can.
The
water's warm. Come on in. We need more people to hold the line.
I daydream about that, and I want it to become a reality desperately. But until this scenario in which you just outlined, Monty Osford is like, one of Johnny or Damon Dog's exes and says, "Stop calling me. I don't want to hear from you."
Hey. I know how Damon rolls. I usually get the message pretty clear. If somebody doesn't F with me, I'm out. I don't need I delete your contact information. You're ghosted.
You go. If Monty's deleting Quessie's contact, he said we got the Dobbs deal done, but we can't get a deal done here. But I mean, it all ends up that the Cardinals, they've got all the leverage in the world, and it's going to come down to Monty Osford. It's not inevitable that a deal is going to get done. It's just not. It's going to be, is the deal that Monty Osford wants to make, does that become available? And if it does so, then he can pull the trigger on it. But it's not, hey, like Monty Osford's like, hey, you've got 23 days, and then I'm going to just pick between the Giants, the Vegas Raiders, the Denver Broncos, and the Minnesota Vikings, who has the best deal, and take the best package. It's like, no. If the price isn't right, we're going with the generational type talent at wide receiver.
Let's take a look at the report or the reported report. So there's like algorithm, the Doves of the world are out there reporting that the Vikings are going to stick and pick. And then there's the aggregation piece, which there's nothing that's come out and said that. Like, even if the Vikings said that, you would not believe them. But here's the so-called report that came out of last week as it relates to the Minnesota Vikings. So interviews at the league meeting in Orlando, Florida revealed the Vikings are working down parallel paths to cover for a pair of outcomes. So, of course, if they can't get their guy, on one hand, they've made deep plans to evaluate the top prospects via private workouts or visits, and they formed the outlines of a structure focused on developing a rookie quarterback. Imagine that. They tried to trade up for Anthony Richardson last year. On the other hand, and I don't buy this for a second, but here it is. They're preparing for the possibility of riding with the offseason edition of Sam Darnold in 2024 and then regrouping with either a quarterback drafted with a lower pick or perhaps looking ahead to the 2025 class. You buying that for a second, Bo Brock?
No, the 2025 class, that is organizational malpractice if they do that. One, when you look at this class right now, nobody's emerged. I don't care how in on Shedeur Sanders or the kid out of Georgia or Quinn Ewers, like that. You can't say, hey, we're going to wait and see. And then are you anticipating being in a better position, a more prime position to draft one of the top quarterbacks? Because it might, the asking price might go up and you might be, somewhere where you are right now, on the outside of the top 10 looking in. If you've got Sam Darnold, you're likely going to be in that position as your starting quarterback, as you already outlined the NFC North and how its trajectory continues to be on the rise. I mean, it's that you can't do that. And especially, why pull the trigger on a deal to get back into the first round for second first round pick if you're not going to utilize it? You're going to just stick and pick and take two players there, and then you're going to have already like even more.
This was our plan all along. This is what we envisioned. We just love this class so much.
I mean, what would you? the fan base would see right through that. Like, man, they completely overplayed their hand.
You failed. That's what you'd be able to say.
You got all the assets to pull off a trade, and then when it came down to it, you didn't get the deal done. And that's not on Monty Austinfort playing hardball. I mean, that's on Kwesi and the Minnesota Vikings for not being like to kind of just tease it all the way up and then not make the deal at the end of the day.
We talked about this yesterday, Damon and I did. I'm firmly of this mindset. If the Vikings could do a deal right now with the Chargers, I think the Chargers would take 11-23 outright. I think Jim Harbaugh would take 11-23 and the Vikings would come up and get assurance of their guy. But why hasn't that happened? Because they know they can't. Because the Cardinals are looming. Monty Austinfort is looming with a potential deal with somebody else. The Cardinals are really, say what you want, Cardinals are holding this deal hostage. Like the Cardinals are dictating how this deal is going to go because the New England Patriots are not trading the pick. I don't want to even consider that. They're sticking and picking. They're going to go with Drake May or Jaden Daniels. They should. That's the right decision. They've talked themselves into it. So it's just like, of course you would love to make a deal with the QB that you want at pick 5 with Jim Harbaugh, who wants more assets to take a tackle at 11 and then have 23. The Cardinals are going to screw those plans up for you, Vikings. Like as much as like Vikings fans are very much like, yeah, this is we're friends. We can do this. Let's make a deal. Everybody, we've got enough picks. It's just like, no. It's got to be all the picks because until the Cardinals make their selection, you're vulnerable to a trade up with the Giants. The Giants, who have been uncharacteristically quiet this entire offseason as it relates to, I mean, they're adding Drew Lock and some mid-tier QBs, and they've got, of course, Daniel Jones, and they could take a receiver. They are 1 year away from pivoting from Daniel Jones. Well, perfect opportunity for J.J. McCarthy to come in and sit a year. Like there are people in New York that full-fledged believe that they are infatuated with J.J. McCarthy. And as long as that's out there, and the Cardinals want that to be out there, the Vikings are in a holding pattern. It's called, we have to basically, eat. All right, we can't have our cake and eat it too. And we've got to eat this crow because we've already come up to pick 23.
Yeah. I mean, what would Vikings fans do if they got would they spend Michael Penix? I mean, I see in the chat, Michael Penix and Byron Murphy II. I think that's just that I feel is even though our guy Baldy said he thinks Penix is the second best quarterback in this draft, I still think there's big time concerns that to take him as a first round pick and with his injury history, his age. I know you could be blown away by a 4.46 40 and what he was able to accomplish, and he started 27 straight games, but it's a high floor, I feel like, with Penix, lower ceiling as far as quarterback prospects go.
I want to get to this comment here. Anthony B, the Vikings have all the leverage. Okay, let me explain to you why that's the most non-factional statement in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
If the Cardinals wanted to today, they could do a deal with the Giants and the Vikings would have no opportunity to draft J.J. McCarthy. They could call up the Giants and say, hey, Giants, we'll give you pick 4 for pick 6. You give us your second rounder. You give us a second and a 4. And then they do that deal. And the Cardinals get Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Nabers. Or the Cardinals say, okay, let's do that deal. And then they make a mini trade up with the Chargers to get Marvin Harrison Jr. The Vikings aren't in contention for anything. When you're picking 11 and 23, you have no leverage. You don't. You have to convince the Cardinals or the Patriots or the Chargers that your picks, your late picks, are worth it in a cumulative package. You were not major players in the top 10.
Well, you and David outlined it perfectly yesterday. Like the 23rd overall pick, it's not like a legit first round pick.
No.
The Texans were like, oh, you trade us a second and a third, and we'll give you a first. That's what its value is. It's not anywhere close to where like, hey, we've got 2 firsts. Like that's what people keep on saying, whether it's on the Twitter streets or whether it's members of the Vikings organization. Like we've got 2 valuable assets. Where when you look at it, like the reality is, if Monty Austinfort trades out of 4, he's trading out of an ability to pick Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Alt, Malik Nabers. And he's trading out of the ability to get those guys in the top 10 and any other prospect that's projected to go in the top 10. He's going to be on the outside looking in, and then he's going to have to figure out like who's worthy of that, who fell potentially and why they fell. It's just that's at 11, and then 23, it's completely different song and dance.
Hamza saying, Johnny, you're making it seem like JJ is the only QB the Vikings like. I've been hearing that Kevin O'Connell loves Penix. Very interesting time that all the Penix love comes out when there's been rumors that the Vikings are trading up for McCarthy. I would say that a lot of this Penix love is telegraphed. I would go with our guy, Benjamin Albright, who has come out and said like Penix is like a late first round pick, maybe even a day 2 pick. Like people told us they loved Malik Willis too. What happened to Malik Willis? He fell to the 3rd round. I don't think that's going to happen to Penix. But here's the difference. How old's JJ McCarthy, Bo? Do you know how old JJ McCarthy is?
He's young, isn't he? He's like 20.
Yeah. How old's Michael Penix?
47.
Yeah. Michael Penix gets his 2nd NFL contract when he's 30 years old.
Yeah.
Think about that. So, okay, that's fine. It's worth pick 11, pick 23, whatever you want to do. Then you better squeeze that orange and get as much as you can out and hope that he doesn't go down. I love Michael Penix. I'd be fired up if that was the Seahawks or somebody going after him. You don't get 11 and 23 cumulatively to go up and get Michael Penix. You put that out there that, of course, you effing love Michael Penix because you're the asking price for JJ McCarthy, who you've loved all along, is too high. It's too. This is where the big kids play. Minnesota Vikings. Like, I understand you haven't had a homegrown quarterback since Dante Culpepper. This is the price tag. And I can tell you right now, what happened the year the Arizona Cardinals and Steve Keim tried to get a quarterback and missed, and they took Hassan Reddick. What happened the very next year? Steve Keim said, I'm not going to allow that to happen again. He went up and he got Josh Rosen, right? They have had to sit on the fact that, and I know he got hurt, they were all in on Anthony Richardson last year. They wanted to go up and get him, and they got shut out. So what did they do this year? They insured themselves to be in the conversation so that wouldn't happen again. Plus, Bo, they're picking 11. There's a good chance their pick next year is going to be 15, 16, 17, if not better. Their roster's good. So they probably think to themselves, this is our one shot to go up and get a guy, a certified top 10 quarterback. In this draft, Minnesota Vikings, like I saw somebody post the other day, like the 2013 top 10, it's like historically bad. This draft, this top 10 is on par with 2021, save for the quarterbacks. Pro Bowlers after Pro Bowlers after Pro Bowlers. So the Cardinals, if they're going to pass on a chance, at least at 4, to take one of the big 3 wide receivers or Joe Alt, who they love, or potentially the pass rusher from Alabama, like you're not going to be able just to get by with some scraps. You have to give a legitimate package.
That's what it's going to, that's the cost of to play the game here. You want to get up, you want to get, it is rare to get 4 worthy quarterbacks. We thought it was iffy to get 3 worthy quarterbacks, and it happened. That was when, Cardinals fans and we're trying to manipulate the draft to get Marvin Harrison Jr. to fall to 4 because they beat Philadelphia in week 17 of the season. They nearly beat the Seahawks, but Matt Prater, God bless him, missed not 1 but 2 kicks to keep the Arizona Cardinals at 4th overall. But I mean, you can't discount the cost of getting up the board and getting a franchise caliber quarterback. If that's what, it's not just the Vikings that like JJ McCarthy. I mean, there's the reports of that the Giants are in on him. I'm sure, Denver would try to do whatever to get up the board.
Well, we missed this last week. Did you catch this? Benjamin Albright said that the Cardinals have been contacted by the Denver Broncos. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know how that phone call went. They have no assets that the Cardinals would want.
Regardless of what Sean Payton says and how he got is trying to tell a reporter what is just fact that they don't have enough to get up and compete with the Vikings of the world.
Yeah, Benjamin Albright came out and said, like, the Broncos have called the Cardinals about pick 4. And the Cardinals are like, okay, what do you got? Are you just going to manufacture picks out of thin air? Like, it would have to be where the Broncos pick 12 Patrick Surtain and you're 1 next year or whatever it is. But, like, I don't think they're doing that. For JJ McCarthy, the fans would riot. Cardinal fans would probably love it. But this is uncharted waters for a lot of these teams because the Broncos are coming off this situation with Russ and Sean Payton where they have no assets. And the Vikings have never played in the sandbox where you come up for a guy. Because here's the reality of the situation. And the fine folks in Minneapolis will understand this here as we get closer to the draft. If J.J. McCarthy hits, you're essentially just giving up 2 1s in consecutive years. It's a blip on the radar. It does not matter if he's your quarterback for 10 plus years, right? Like if it's a 1 next year and 2 1s this year, that's it. You're fine. Your franchise is stable. The Niners recovered from it, and they gave up 3 future first rounders in 3 consecutive drafts for Trey Lance. So they'll talk themselves into it at some point. Will it be enough for the Cardinals? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, they have a good enough roster right now. And I think that they're as far as their talent evaluation, they've done a good job, especially the last couple drafts. The young talent that they've brought in, it's hit for the most part. Like Addison was a good selection last year. He couples very well with Justin Jefferson. That's an understatement. Like they have good players on the offensive and defensive line. They added good additions in free agency. I mean, they're in a good spot. They could overcome that, but it also like they have to be looking at it from the standpoint, and I guarantee you that there's less doubt than a lot of the fan base. Like they've done their homework on this quarterback class. Like they've been at each and every one of the pro days. They've had heavy contingents. Damon and I were on the same flight as the Vikings contingent at the Senior Bowl, where Michael Penix and Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler were the quarterbacks that were kind of highlighted the class and headlined the class because the big names weren't in the Senior Bowl in Mobile, but like they're doing their homework on each and every one of the quarterbacks that they like. Can we find a starter in this class? And I think they believe so. Like, I don't think it starts and ends with JJ McCarthy. It certainly doesn't. Like, of course, if they had an opportunity to get Drake May, but it's not going to happen.
No,
so
not.
That's where, at least like the NFL stock exchange is right now, where the value for the 4th pick has now become, like Jim Harbaugh said last week at the league meetings, if it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks, it's like 5 is the first pick in the NFL draft.
We're going to get to these super chats here. I want to remind everybody, drop a like on this video. Let's do it in the return of Bo Brack. 500 likes is the goal today. Drop a like down below. It helps your boys here on PHNX Cardinals. Help yourself with our friends at BetMGM First Bet Offer. I hope you were on those Iowa Hawkeyes last night. I sure was. En route to college women's national championship game. We got the men's Final Four right around the corner. No better time than to dabble with our friends at BetMGM, the BetMGM Sportsbook app. First bet offer up to, you guessed it, $1,500. All you got to do, sign up with that bonus code PHNX. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on your iOS or Android device. And then, of course, maybe go to BetMGM.com. I love, especially with baseball now, all the props, daily games, the over-unders, whatever you want to do it with BetMGM. Sign up and deposit at least 10 bones, and they're going to match that in your newly created BetMGM Sportsbook account. So you deposit 10, you get 10. You do 50, you get 50. It's a one-off, right? So you use it, and then you lose it. Your first wager up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. So if you place $100 on a wager, you get $100 back, all the way up to $1,500 if that bet loses. If it wins, you get the winnings. You're having a good time. But regardless, do it with our friends at BetMGM. Again, PHNX is that bonus code. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to my guy, Shane Diefenbach, talk about it in the disclaimer.
Bets expire in 7 days. One new customer offer only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, North Carolina, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Had a great time with the fam on vacation, but I missed all of you. And we were out of state, and always miss our great state of Arizona. And love to celebrate it. So does the Arizona Lottery. They've got a great new promotion. It's the Arizona Venture Ticket Promotion, where there's 3 big ways to play and win. One, you can just do a scratch off. You can win up to $50,000. You scratch off tickets with 3 iconic landscapes: Picacho Peak, Monument Valley, and Camelback Mountain. You get that $50K, or you could go check in on geolocated adventures at 10 destinations across the state, from Flagstaff to Yuma. Visit azadventure.com for details and directions. You check in at the destination coordinates on the website, and you can enter tickets online for a chance to win $1 million cash or Arizona travel prizes. Don't miss out on this unbelievable promotion. Arizona Lottery, not just about playing games, and winning prizes. It's also about giving back to the state and its communities. Visit azadventure.com for more information on how you can take an adventure for a chance to win $1 million cash and Arizona travel prizes with AZ Lottery.
Got some breaking news here on a Football Tuesday from our guy of the NFL Network, Ian Rap Sheet Rappaport. Marvin Harrison Jr. will have his pre-draft visit with the Arizona Cardinals later this week. Marvin Harrison Jr. coming to the great state of Arizona to meet with Monty Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon, and company. That comes on the heels of Bo Brack. The Cardinals have already had a pre-draft visit with one Roma Dunze from Washington, and of course, Malik Nabers of LSU is in town today. Cardinals gone with the big three of their top 30 visits. What are your takeaways from that breaking news here?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the breaking news. Did he say it on NFL Network? Or
yes, and then they linked it on NFL.com. It just says visits. Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. will have a pre-draft visit later this week with the Arizona Cardinals, according to Rap Sheet. So just on good old NFL line. NFL.com.
Well, I mean, look, it's still very much in play. It is. And I say that with bated breath. And like you said, we could be sitting there, and if you don't think that a pre-draft or a draft night trade is going to happen, it's going to be a long time as the Arizona Cardinals sit on the clock, right at fourth overall, and the seconds and minutes tick off the clock. And until Goodell gets up there and says Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm still not going to be comfortable celebrating it. But look, it continues to move the chains as far as this pre-draft process goes. And Marvin Harrison Jr. has had a pretty unique one. You talked to Baldy about it yesterday. We got that short up on our YouTube page where you can just check out what Baldy's thoughts were on. He thought, Marvin Harrison isn't kind of doing himself any, service here by sitting out some of this process, but he continues to kind of talk to the teams that are going to be in play for him. And the Cardinals remain the top team. The team that has a quarterback locked in and at fourth overall could be selecting him. It's good news. It's music to Cardinals fans' ears because it keeps the dream alive. And with the Vikings try to play take this hard stance and what that they could go turn the 2025 for their quarterback and punt on it this year. It's great for the Cardinals in their fan base because that's part of the leverage here is that a player the caliber of Marvin Harrison Jr. That's what you do. You either get a deal worthy of passing on the opportunity to select him, or you just stick and pick and you take kind of the surest thing in this draft.
Damon, your thoughts on the top 30 visit for MHJ?
I'm just elated. I love it. This is what it's all about. This is Cardinals football.
This is Cardinals football. This is the big three meeting with the Arizona Cardinals. Again, Joe Alt, we would assume is going to get a top 30 visit, but those are the major players right now, led by Marvin Harrison Jr. I have yet to see another top 30 visit that I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to be the guy with their first pick. Have you? Is there another player that, I don't think they've met with a lot of the big name defensive players. I think they're meeting with some of the mid-tier guys, some of the guys that could go at the back half of the first round. But Ossenfort's making it clear, we're going to talk to these wideouts. And it's smart because these are the three of the best players in the draft.
Well, look at how they built this roster so far. Where do they have a severe lack? What's the biggest void remaining on their roster? X wide receiver, right? And the best option is Marvin Harrison Jr. He is. And then probably the next best option is Malik Nabers. And then Roma Dunze. And as you said, they're talking all three of them. You had Malik Nabers in today, and we've got some video from that. Another SEC ass kicker who was along with him on his top 30 visit. But this is who they've talked to so far.
Okay.
We've got 14 names as far as top 30. Brendan Rice, wide receiver from USC. Dylan Johnson, the running back from Washington. Nehemiah Pritchett, a DB out of Auburn, who's just got a tool shed of skills, just as athletic as they come. I think he was sub 4.40. Christian Boyd, interior defensive lineman. Jacob Cowing, skilled slot receiver out of U of A. Xavier Worthy, the record holder for fastest 40 time, the wide receiver out of Texas. Jarvis Brownlee, defensive back out of Jonathan Gannon's alma mater, Louisville. You've got Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Nabers, Roma Dunze, Andrew Phillips, defensive back out of Kentucky, and Terrion Arnold, the DB out of Alabama. And then Arizona, an interesting defensive lineman, Taylor Upshaw.
I mean, is anybody of those players that you just named, and this isn't the end all be all, worth a top, or any of them worth pick 11? Like realistically, is Terrion Arnold an option for pick 11? I think that probably
it's a reach for Arnold,
right? But who's worth it out of that group?
And then a Dunze would have to slide,
and that's not happening.
Right.
There's no. I mean, the Jets are meeting with a Dunze one-on-one. Like, I look at that and I'm like, you go down to 11. Damon and I talked about this yesterday. You either need to go down again or you need to go back up. Like, you might as well, if you're going to go to 11 and you can't get back up, you might as well go down a little bit. Take Brian Thomas Jr. or somebody like that.
Well, what we were talking about, Bo, is just that, like, the class of player you're going to get at 11 versus the class of player you'd get at like 25 is pretty much going to be the same thing. I feel like
it's close. It's very close. And that's what you have to explain to these dim-witted Viking fans that just feel like, oh, it's equal. Look at the trade chart. Generational receivers and tackle prospects do not come along every year.
Right.
Educate yourself.
Well, look at the most recent drafts. Remember that the draft for the Cardinals made the trade for Hollywood, and then there was that run on wide receivers. I mean, guys that were projected late first round, early second, like Jahan Dotson, like they were getting scooped up. Traylon Burks off the board. Everybody was off the board by 20. If you don't think that there's going to be a similar run, especially in the top 10 on these three prospects who are in top 5 just prospects overall, you're right. Dim-witted is probably the right way to describe it.
All right, so Marvin Harrison Jr. set to meet with the Cardinals later this week. Should we send Damon out to the facility just to camp out? Sean Payton, Michael Bidwell style. Remember Cam Cox was just camped out of the parking lot across the street? I think we need Damon across the street at the Tempe facility.
Wearing one of those jackets with like the leaves on it and stuff.
Well, I mean, I thought we were going to do like a stakeout. You're going to be in your car with maybe some Circle K treats, and you're just going to be sitting there and just with your binoculars. And,
we could do that too.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. But are you going to be able to hold, like, compose yourself? Are you going to be able to not take your poster board and have to hold the line for Marv sign?
I might bring it with me just in case, but I think this is a business trip, Bo. I mean, we got to find some information here. I got to see sweet Marvin lock eyes with Monty and just feel the chemistry, you know?
Super chat number 1 today comes from a young man. I think he's young, that crafted maybe the best organic Twitter post of the weekend. Bo, did you see what Merv produced over the weekend on Twitter? I cannot believe Damon has not showed it to you. It's a video of Monty Austin Ford. Damon's in it. Jonathan Gannon. It's classic. It's exactly what Twitter is meant to be. Merv saying $2. So you're saying hold the line. Damon, explain how great Merv's video was.
Well, basically, it just comes down to the great Patrick Henry quote, known Cardinals superfan Patrick Henry. Give me Marvin Harrison Jr. or give me death. And we kind of just build on it from there.
I don't want to give too much away. Got to let Bo react to it organically. Thank you so much, Merv. One of the best. As is Deuce, $5 super chat. Feeling 100 since validated by my guy Baldy. MHJ equals me first. Alt is team first. I hope fans come around not getting MHJ. Alt plus Nabers win. In my honest opinion, let's effing go. Jobo, of course, Baldy yesterday. I asked him point blank because we were talking about, like, how do you take Joe Alt and you have Jonah Williams and yada, yada, yada. And he's just like, I asked him, can Joe Alt play guard? And he just scoffed at that. Of course he can. And it just, to me, it makes sense. You have Jonah Williams. He can be a Band-Aid. If he exceeds that, absolutely keep him around. But, like, Jonah Williams by himself should not alter your ability or want to take Joe Alt if you love Joe Alt.
Right.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
Big 6'8" left guard. I mean, that would be a massive line with Jonah Williams and Paris Johnson Jr. And then you got Yelda Froholt and Will Hernandez, and then you've got Joe Alt out of position playing left guard. But I love Baldy. Was like, yeah, he can play guard.
Are Bermuda fish big? Exactly. Yeah, they're pretty big. They are a trophy fish.
They're
Johnny.
Trophy fish. So I don't know how to answer that. Deuce, $5.
That's almost what he looked like. He looked at looking around.
Yeah, so he felt validated by that. Okay, that's fine. I mean, look, I still. Let's not think that Marvin Harrison Jr. is me first guy. I just don't get the sense of that. And Paris Johnson Jr. did not describe him as a me first guy. He's a hardworking,
He's a quiet guy.
He's quiet. He's reserved. And I think like Kyler, when you're more tight-lipped, you're more susceptible to people creating their own narratives around you because
that's right.
One, you don't even like care enough to answer those silly narratives. And two, you're focused on what your actual, mission is. And I think Marvin Harrison Jr.'s mission, and that's why I always thought it was silly that people are like, well, he might go back for the NIL money and try. He wants to go back and beat Michigan, and he wants to do all these things. They romanticize college football. It's like, no, this kid, he was born and he is raised to come to the NFL level and dominate just like his dad. That's what he wants to do. So, and he doesn't want to have to get into anything or do anything that would kind of take away from his ability to get drafted as high as possible and then go and play at the highest level at the NFL level.
Oh, for sure. $4.99. All you have to trade is vegetables and a side of gravy. Get the F out of here. You want pick 4, then pay up, literally. Oh, for sure. $4.99 super chat. There's no reality in which the Vikings don't give up 3 firsts, right? If the Cardinals opt to trade down. There's no reality in which
I
they
wouldn't want to be a part of. No.
I don't want to be around anymore.
Yeah, just fire me off into the multiverse any direction. And I just don't want to be in that reality where Monty Ossenfort got less than what the asking price was. Charlie Sinclair, is he continuing his Iron Man streak?
He's the best. He's been here holding it down while you've been gone.
That's right. A resident Chargers fan. The return of Bo. Actually think Nabers is a Chargers guy. GM went to his pro day. Visit tomorrow. Fits the play action game with Harbaugh. MHJ to Arizona. All right. Now we're speaking the exact same language, Charlie. I'm in for that.
Charlie's not so bad.
I never thought he was bad. I think he's been great.
I thought he was bad.
I love Charles. He's a great follow on Twitter too.
Your precious line.
Exactly. He is.
Here's what I'll say about Nabers. Who does Nabers remind you of that played for the Arizona Cardinals? That also played on Harbaugh's Super Bowl team in San Francisco.
Anquan Bolden.
That's right. And what did Anquan do? He's physical, dominant run blocker. And I'm not saying Marvin Harrison Jr. is not physical, but I could see Jim Harbaugh saying, you know what? Apples to oranges. This could be a scenario in which we like Malik Nabers more. Malik Nabers going ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. While I think it's a fallacy and a mistake by that team that does it, it's not going to be the craziest thing I've ever seen. And you talk about the Cardinals going back with the Giants, the Chargers sticking and picking Nabers, and the Cardinals getting MHJ at 6. I mean, that's the American dream right there.
They would, you'd have to resuscitate a couple podcast hosts at the draft party if we went through that emotional roller coaster and that hour's worth of time. That'd be insane. Libertarian Sasquatch, $4.99 super chat. I've slept on the deal, thought about it. I still hate it. Wide receiver is a huge need. Football gods finally gave us a gift. Don't tempt fate.
It is a gift. And the Cardinals are responding by working out the 3 best receivers. Not working, just working out. So they didn't go to Ohio State's pro day, or the Ossenfort didn't, because Marvin didn't work out. They were at LSU's pro day, and they were at Washington's pro day. And then they've subsequently had the big 3 to their building for a get together. So Libertarian Sasquatch, they know it's a need. They know that Michael Wilson's I think going to be a high end number 2. Greg Dortch is the ultimate slot receiver. He's earned it. Trey McBride's going to be a Pro Bowler this year. Who's the number 1 guy? It's in this draft. And now they have to figure out who fits the build and what package with what picks.
Now we haven't seen, we have basically half the top 30 list, right? And it features Brendan Rice is probably the one guy that debunks this because he's probably mid-second, early third type player. Mm-hmm. But then as you pointed this out before, Xavier Worthy and Jacob Cowing, these are guys that they could use all that draft capital that they have and get them, late day 3, early day 4 type. I'm sorry, there's no 4th day of the draft, but late day 2, early day 3 type guys where it would just be depth. They're going to spend a premium pick on a wide receiver. They absolutely are. And that's what this is indicated of.
I think their first pick at this point, they are committed to making it a wideout. whatever that looks like. And I commend them for that. If they can get it done, whether it's
It
a
feels
trade
like
down.
what they felt about Paris Johnson at this time, this is how they feel probably about the wide receiver position right now.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to check the pulse of this draft. Obviously, like if we're not sticking and picking at 4, we're going to do whatever's within our power to get up and get one of these guys.
Well, what I can tell you right now is, though, there's been reports that the Jets want to trade down. Obviously, that's too close for comfort. The Falcons and the Titans would like to trade down. Like, there are teams.
I think the Bears with their first want to trade down. I think that 9th overall, they wouldn't mind trading down and getting into a spot that's more conducive to picking a defensive player.
When you have a reputation like the Cardinals do now, where you are pick central, when you have all the picks, 6 in the top 90, potentially future first from the Vikings, like it would be 7 in the top 90 if you go to 11 and 23. Like, people are going to pick up your phone call because they know you have the assets to deal. So, like, I think it would behoove them to make a move before the draft if they were committed. But the Cardinals are going to have takers to move up. What's it going to look like? You have to make sure you're not taking advantage of. Like, I don't want to sit there at 11 and a Dunze is available and you want to come up to pick 7 and they're asking for pick 35. Like, that's not a fair trade. Like, you got to figure that out in advance.
Right. And, money. The clip that we were all fawning over last year of Monty Ossenfort on the phones, like that doesn't. He's probably even more of a stone cold killer than he was in his first draft, where he was pretty much, it was a whirlwind from taking the job to getting prepared for that draft to where he's now locked in. Like, he's as locked in as he could possibly be. Like, all the pieces are in place. If they're not, he's setting them in place right now. If he has to do it that way, he will. He's going to be the most prepared to do so. But I hear what you're saying. Like, you don't want to have to. It doesn't set you up for the most success.
Let me ask you this question, because I know Damon's answer. Is there anything that Marvin can do between now and the draft, especially at this visit, where he can make it clear to them, like, guys, I know you want more picks. I know there's expectation you guys could trade down, and you say the right things. We're going to come back up and get you. Is there anything Marvin can say or do at this meeting this week?
Yeah,
to convince the Cardinals, like, you know what are we doing? Let's just take our guy. Is there anything that could happen like that?
Yeah, he looks Monty Ossenfort in the face, and Jonathan Gannon's there, and he says, if you pass on me, I'm going to haunt your fucking dreams forever.
I was kind of thinking he looks at him and says, hold the fucking line.
Whatever it is, he gets vulgar, and he just says,
aggressive.
He says, if you pass on me, I will haunt your dreams. And when you are hopefully you get a second job in this league, but if you pass on me, that I'm gonna be a big part of why you didn't get
Monty Ossenfort. You thought the AJ Brown deal was bad for your predecessor in Tennessee. Wait until you pass on me.
Right.
He's gonna have a couple lines ready to go. I think he and his dad are gonna craft some lines.
What if he just talks up Kyler the whole time? Like, maybe that could convince. Like, they're just this guy loves Kyler.
I think they know that already.
Like, that's fine. Like, he'll get in there, and Kyler's been at the facility working out, as we've heard several times, and like, that's cool. But like, at the very end, like before Marv takes off, he says, if you pass on me, it's going to be your biggest regret.
Enjoy a 2025 first rounder when you're under fire and you need a winning season. And I'm putting up Pro Bowl seasons already for the Chargers. Chris Smith, $5 super chat. Cards need to pick MHJ at 4 and trade the 27th and 71st pick to the Saints for pick 14th. I think it would take a little bit more than that. Saints don't have any 3rd or 4th round picks. Chris, there's opportunities for the Cardinals to deal up from 27. Yeah. And we've been advocates of that on this show. I think tackles still in play, interior offensive line, defensive tackle, pass rusher. The Cardinals, I would be surprised if they take Marvin at 4, 27, 35. Like, I don't think they're married to that first pick in the 3rd round. I think that's prime real estate to move up.
Agent 47 saying MHL will say nothing. He's a quiet dude. I don't disagree with that, but that's why I think it carries more weight.
Oh, I think he could say something privately.
Yeah.
To their faces. Because now Marvin's on Twitter all the time. It's great. We love it. We're addicted to it. He sees all this stuff about all these national shows. Like, I saw Greg Jennings go on Colin Cowherd basically ripping Marvin. basically saying like, who the hell are you? You're not Calvin Johnson. Malik Nabers is out there working out. Like Marvin can come and play defense a little bit here in the Cardinals team meeting. Like, yeah, put my tape on. Why do I need to do this dog and pony show? I'm working for you. I'm working out for you right now to help you win games. You won 4 games last year. I'm going to help you win. You couldn't score 15 points against the Seahawks last year. Granted, they didn't have Kyler that first outing, but like that's what I would have ready. I do my research on the team last year and say, hey, in this game, you needed me in the red zone. Hey, in this game, you needed me to help you convert on 3rd down. Like the rest of this stuff's secondary. And they know it. That's why his dad's telling him not to do it.
I mean, it's still a job interview. Like you can be as confident as you want. Like that, take a big set to say that to an NFL GM.
Shows you're invested. I think it shows you're invested. $4.99 Cedra. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you so much. Cards are more likely to pick MHJ than trade with the Giants because of Kyler's size. MHJ 6'4", love Nabers, but it would take a haul from New York. Like I do think the Cardinals prefer a big receiver, but I do think there's this narrative of like Nabers is too small. He's not too small. Like he would start.
He's a legit 6 feet. Like he got measured his pro day. He's a legitimate over 6 feet, a little change. He's big enough. He's more than like has enough height, has enough athleticism.
He's pretty stocky too.
He's stocky. Yeah, he does. He looks like he's like a Jamar Chase build. He's like, Jalen Waddle's just under 6 feet. He's big enough. He makes plays for the Dolphins.
And Nabers has more weight to him than Jalen Waddle does. I mean, Xavier Worthy is like the type of guy we should be worried about in terms of a size perspective.
Get him out. I don't even want to entertain that. And the kid from Arizona, get that out of here. Enough of this. Stop.
If you have a Marv or a Rome or a Malik, maybe not Malik, already drafted, then you can look at those guys.
Fine, whatever. Add names.
That's.
Where's the Xavier Leggett top 30 interview, please? Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Monty. Adam H. $9.99. Lock shields and hold the effing line. Hold it. $9.99. Thank you so much, Adam, for supporting the channel in that way. It's a good day for folks hoping to hold the line. If Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings are truly cowering with the thought of parting with a future draft pick in 2025. Good day for the hold the line folks.
Yeah, they're in the foxholes right now. They're taking grenades, and this was a lighter day. It was a lighter day. This is a win for them, and this is where you want to. This is where you kind of just support them. You offer them the support for holding the lines. Well, we're just back
a little bit
here.
of reinforcements came in.
Absolutely. We get you maybe an extra meal or two.
It was looking pretty dire for a second.
Now that there's been kind of a bit of a ceasefire, this is where we show appreciation to hold the line.
We had a bit of a skeleton crew holding the line for a second, but we're on our way back up.
Well, I mean, that's how you guys could figure out who's with you, who's coming with you, and who's not.
Yeah, rations, ammo. We're ready to go.
Rations. I was so bad at social studies at school. 23 roughly days until the 2024 NFL draft. So, I mean, you got a little ways to go. Ration that food.
23 days. Like, what is it? 12 minutes per pick. We got by 23 days from now. We've got 2 picks made, right?
When we're doing this,
we're sweating out.
I'll be big boy sweaty. MB $4.99 is a possible 3-way trade. Arizona gets 5/23, Minnesota gets 4, LA gets 11/27, 2025 first. I don't think so. I think MB, we've talked about it. I think what's realistic is if you do a deal with the Vikings now, and then the Cardinals do a deal with the Chargers on draft day. That's realistic.
Right.
Come up. I don't think altogether, no. This is in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't think Joe Ortiz, Maya Osifort, and Minnesota is just trying to get a deal done. But I don't think the 2 teams that are also involved in that are going to say, hey, let's get something that works out for all 3 of us, everybody. Like, no, the Chargers are trying to get the best deal for them. That's not how they can maximize the 5th overall pick. And I don't think it's the best way that Monty can maximize the 4th overall pick. I think you kind of water it down. What you're trying to get, and it'd be nice, like if all NFL GMs can lock hands, like the hold the line crew, and like live in harmony, and that's great. But like you're taking not the best deal possible. That's where it gets a little tricky. I mean, it makes sense to us. It makes sense to me. I'm like, oh, absolutely, sign me up. Fall down to 5, get Marv, and then the Chargers get a little extra pick. Like, it makes sense. But if you're an NFL GM and you're scratching and clawing for every single thing and trying to maximize each of your assets, like, that's not maximizing your assets.
Deuce, $2. It's just me, or is it just me? Or K1 wants alt as a Cardinal. Kyler Murray wants offensive lineman.
Yeah,
Kyler Murray, I won't put words in his mouth. He hasn't told anybody this, but like, I would assume like he'd be totally okay with a tackle or a guard or both early in this draft, because he showed you last year one of his most efficient runs as a pro came with Michael Wilson as his number 1, Trey McBride and Greg Dortch. So I'm sure if you're asking Kyler, like, get me protection, let's get a run game, and then I can elevate not lesser guys, but lesser prospects. I think probably Kyler experienced the Keim way of team building where it's like trade for Hopkins, which was a good move, trade for Hollywood, draft Christian Kirk, and just like flush the receiver position.
right.
It didn't translate to wins. It didn't translate to him staying healthy for 17 weeks. I think Kyler would tell anybody who asked him, if you can put out a quality offensive line, I will stay healthy for 17 weeks and I will get us to the playoffs with the receiving core that you give me. And that is a huge, huge, I think, coup for him and his ability to elevate other people. And you saw it last year.
If you give me, if you have a solid play caller that can really tap into his skill set, and then you put a rock solid offensive line, he can elevate mediocre to below average skill position players. No doubt about it. And people have been asking, like, why can't Kyler elevate this roster of players, these skill players? Like, he's been given from DeAndre Hopkins to the guys like Greg Dortch. Like, it doesn't matter if you're running for your life. If you got Aaron Donald blown through the interior offensive line, or worse, not even AD, like worse, like guys, no-name guys that are just game-wrecking your offensive game plan because you didn't prepare for it, because you tried to patchwork an offensive line together. Like, he's seen what it looks like. In Oklahoma, his Heisman Trophy winning season, like, he had like a Creed Humphreys, didn't he? He had guys that were going to go play at the next level that protected him, that were a brick wall. He understands that. That's why he was pounding the table for Tristan Wirfs. And it wasn't Tristan Wirfs. Sure, he'd go, support and gas up his buddy in CeeDee Lamb, but he wanted Wirfs first. And he wanted Creed Humphrey, and they didn't do it. They didn't provide that because they weren't they were playing fantasy football.
Blow Brock's back from vacation, $4.99 super chat. Can you tell I'm on plumber shrooms? Blow Brock, welcome back equally with our dear co-host Bo Brock. Like this video here.
Using the picture that Johnny used of you today.
Thanks for putting that out in the world.
It's been out there. It's on PHNX Sports' website. He's modeling clothes. Our fine
putting out my smolder look, and you exposed it today on the PHNX Cardinals Twitter.
It's almost as great as my.
That's what your intentions were by tweeting that out. Hey, this is a great look. Let me welcome back Bo.
I want to say something right now. I'm gone from this show like once in a blue moon, and I tune in and I catch strays left and right. You would not have heard one negative thing about you had you tuned into the shows you were not on. So I'm sorry if I post a nice smoldering picture on the PHNX. How dare you?
I listened to you and Clancy on Thursday, and then I listened to you, Baldy, and Damon yesterday.
Respectful of our co-hosts here. Just like the fine people at Circle K, it's respectful, or damn near, it's a privilege to be a part of the inner circle with our friends at Circle K, and it's for free right now. It's America's thirst stop, free new membership program. Join it right now. Save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Save 3 cents per gallon every single day. Plus, you get 6 free selection on things like pizza, coffee, ice cold fountain drinks. I love those Polar Pops. Check them out right now. Circle K. Download the app today. Terms and conditions apply. At participating locations, visit CircleK.com for more details. I kid you not, I was at Circle K the other day. I pumped what I thought had to have been unequivocally the lowest gas than I've had in 6 months. I go inside, I get a drink, I get some candy, Candyman, and I went and ringed it up. There's no line. and I ringed up my food, my accoutrement, and it was like unbelievably cheap and they were Circle K products. I go and get my car. I'm just like, I love saving money, and I do it every time I use the Inner Circle Rewards app.
Yep. Tough to beat what's going on. I've got my Circle K down in the corner. Love it. Get over there, push the limits as far as my gas tank goes, and then load up on treats just like you outlined there. Circle K, tough to beat that, and tough to beat Game Time. Actually, Damon, you were on Game Time yesterday. Get yourself some tickets to the Diamondbacks Yankees.
Can
showdown.
I just say cheap tickets, like the cheapest that you possibly could have found. So many Yankees fans, unfortunately, out there at Chase yesterday.
Unfortunately, they know about Game Time. But
lots of taking up seats, but our friends over at Game Time, just a cheap price of like $27 for a pair of tickets at a packed Chase Field. I mean, you
need to tell Diamondback fans to hold the line. Yeah. You won the National League last year. Let's hold the line a little bit.
Yeah.
That's pretty gross.
A couple guys in the stands calling pizza pie. Hey, let's go get a couple pies. Watch the Yankees, Juan Soto. We don't need that at Chase Field. We don't need that. We need more Diamondbacks fans, Damon. You need to hold the line.
You know me. You know me. Like, I'm sitting there screaming. Like, I'm walking around the stadium being like, if you're from Arizona and you're a Yankees fan, you're a loser. Like, I'm trying to get in fights and stuff. So I'm holding the line.
Nice. That's what I want to bring my kids to. Nice.
That's right. Go get cheap tickets on Game Time, save money, get yelled at by Damon while you're at the ballpark. It's the lowest price guaranteed. You got to check it out. It's not just for sporting events. It's not just for, the last 8 games of the Yotes season or the Suns' final 7, 8 games as well, right? For the Suns before the playoffs. So you check it out, get in, lowest price guaranteed, Game Time ticket coverage with Game Time. Use the code PHNX. You get $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
More super chats, but before we get to those, want to remind everybody right now, our draft coverage begins April 25th, a Thursday. You can catch us live on YouTube, the first round in its entirety. We are going to be at Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass for our draft party. We made the announcement yesterday, Bo. Draft party is temporarily, maybe permanently sold out. We sold out all 100 plus tickets. However, thanks to a gracious viewer, we do have a precious segment of tickets to give out for free on this show leading up to the big event. So again, we're going to start giving out those tickets here in the coming days. I think we've got 6 tickets to give out for the draft party. But again, if you're coming, thank you so much. If you're not coming, there's still an opportunity to come for free. Gila River Resorts and Casinos for the draft party, Bo.
Yeah, unbelievably generous. Paid full price for these tickets, and they wanted to give them back to the PHNX Cardinals community. That's unreal. That's what it's all about. Thankful for that, and can't wait to get 6 people in. My DMs are full right now of people who were like, "You dirty bastards! You didn't really stress the urgency as far as the draft party tickets." Like, we got to about like 50 or 52. And I thought we were just kind of moseying along, and then next thing you know, we were sold out. And I apologize to everybody out there. It's a good problem to have, obviously, for us, but we want everybody to be in there for the draft party, celebrating this pivotal moment in Cardinals history together.
DD, $1.99 super chat. Cards versus Vikings. Tune. He's saying Mexican standoff. That might be a little inappropriate, but we will say tune here on this football podcast. Cards versus Vikings, a standoff of 2 general managers who I think are well respected in the NFL. How about Jalen Blair, Bo? $5 super chat. Numbers show that it doesn't matter to K1 if he has a number 1 receiver between the 20s, but you can tell the difference in the red zone. TDs fall off the board. It's a great point. I think you just number 1 receiver or just bigger targets. Like, God forbid Kyler Murray has multiple receivers over 6 foot instead of, Rondale Moore and Hollywood Brown and D-Hop toward the end when he was injured and an old Zach Ertz. It's like, hey, how about Trey McBride in Pittsburgh last year, over 6 feet, dominating in the red zone for Kyler Murray? Like, more of that, please, Bo.
Right. Well, I mean, they have 2 weapons in the red zone now, and because they decided to go big, right? Trey McBride, a carryover, and then Michael Wilson, who emerged in the Philly game with a touchdown, a 2-point conversion. Yeah. I think that you saw Kyler's numbers that were going in the right direction in the red zone. Like he did show that, like, I don't think you have to have like a true number one, but you need some size and you need some playmaking regardless if it's going to be a D-Hop or anybody else.
I think back, I was at the game in Dallas. Antoine Wesley was with the team for like 2 months. Kyler threw 2 red zone touchdowns to Antoine Wesley.
Right.
Antoine Wesley's like 6'4". He's an ex-basketball player for Texas Tech. Kingsbury had him. It's like, no shit. The Kyler wants bigger receivers. I think he needs a bigger back like James Conner, and Cardinals are cognizant of that. Elijah Higgins, big target. Kyler looked really good feeding him in the seam. So I'm with you, Jalen. I think between the 20s, he's always been able to move the football, especially with his legs, but the red zone shortens and shrinks everything. The margin for error becomes that much greater. And so the Cardinals, I think Greg Dortch is the exception to the rule. He plays bigger than his size, but everybody else needs to be big, physical, playmaking receivers.
Well, and I think Dortch was able to hit from outside the red zone. Like that's where his scoring opportunities come. I think, Kyler's going to make it more like a post game with his receivers now in the red zone with those big bodies where you saw, some back of the end zone and in front of the end zone stuff. So thank God for that. Like the play calling and maximizing Kyler Murray's abilities in the red zone. You saw that go the right direction last year. Are we doing a mock draft?
We save it for tomorrow, I think.
Oh, okay.
Save a little mock draft Wednesday here on PHNX Cardinals. I do want to remind everybody, go PHNX.com, become a diehard. Congrats to our guy Joel, just re-upped his diehard membership. Of course, he gets a free hat and or shirt every single year at the merchandise locker, including 100% of the articles at GoPHNX.com unlocked, plus 20% off free shipping on every single piece of merch, plus discounts, future events, and of course, the exclusive PHNX Cardinals member Discord. So thank you so much, Joel. Everybody who's becoming a diehard, it is worth it unequivocally. We're in draft season now. Perfect time to load up on some PHNX Cardinal gear ahead of the 2024 season, Bo.
That's right. I apologize for even saying the 4-letter word, muck, today. It was on the schedule. We will get to it tomorrow.
Well, then Marvin's news came out. And when Marvin Harrison Jr., it's announced that he's visiting Sweet Baby Arizona Cardinals in Arizona, that takes precedent over our mock drafts.
We can show 2 SEC ass kickers though. This is via Terry and Arnold's Instagram, and
posted in the cut, man.
That's K1 since day one posted on his Twitter, recorded it from Terry and Arnold's Instagram. There they are, as Damon pointed out. It looks like in the back of a Big Lots parking lot. No, that's the Cardinals facility there. It just doesn't look like an NFL caliber facility.
Not yet. They're working on it.
Right.
Not yet. Would you take right now, if somebody came up to you and said, you can have Nabers and Terrion Arnold locked in, or you can have Marvin Harrison Jr. and TBD at 27, what would you do?
I would take Marvin Harrison Jr. and TBD.
It's a good choice. It's a good choice. It's the right choice. And I love Nabers.
And
I love.
I would be wanting more. Like if like Nabers and Arnold is a great start, but like, do you have a third first rounder? Like if
you don't.
Okay, yeah. No, I wouldn't sign up for that. But they're 2 dogs in their own right. Like I like Arnold for sure as far as this cornerback crop. Like I don't think anybody's going to outwork him, and I think he fits the culture for sure. But
I think Arnold has a really high floor. You wonder how high his ceiling is. I think he's just going to be a really good, solid starting corner, but he doesn't have the pizzazz of like a Sauce Gardner or somebody like that. And Nabers is such a wild card, man. Like I tried to tap in, see what they think outside of Marvin. I'm getting just kind of ghosted right now because really they're keeping their cards close to the chests, and no pun intended. Like I have a hard time imagining Austin Ford watching Nabers tape and not saying like, this is a nice fallback option. And I love Rome Odunze and what he can do vertically. I think the Pac-12, Marvin's in his own category in the Big Ten. I think the Pac-12 and the quality of the defensive back in the Pac-12, I worry about the competition that Rome faced in comparison to Malik Nabers. And I know Malik Nabers had Jaden Daniels, Penix, and Odunze, but I don't buy that Nabers is not a better prospect than Rome. Like that's catchy right now because of his size and his vertical speed. And I think Rome's going to be a good player. It could be a Cardinal at the end of the day. Nabers is a better prospect than Roma Dunze.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you look at the analytics, statistics, people make their case for Rome, but yeah, I think that there's truth to what you said as far as the competition that Nabers was facing from the very jump. I mean, he played Florida State to open up the season, and I know that Dunze and Penix, and he had probably just as complementary pieces in his receiving core as Nabers did in LSU, but the competition, the last season of the Pac-12 versus the SEC, which is taking,
Pac-12 was pretty strong this year. It was the strongest year in a long time.
But I'm trying to think of like who's coming out of the Pac-12 in the playing a secondary position.
Oregon's got a couple of DBs that are going to be drafted at some point, but like
Utah,
Kyrie Jackson. Utah always has a strong secondary,
but like
Arizona, but not
with two other legitimate wideouts, I guess. So is Nabers. I mean, they're all playing with good players. They're because they go to great schools, but it's you're slicing hairs at this point. They're all Nabers, Harrison Jr., Dunze are all going to be top 10 picks.
Yeah.
And if you consider like, okay, the big 3 and the big 4 at QB, that's 7 picks. You mix in Joe Alt, that's 8 picks. We probably, who else is going top 10? Who am I missing?
You got
8 offensive players. Who am I missing? We got 2 spots left.
You got 4 quarterbacks and then 3 receivers and
Joe Alt. Yeah. Probably. Who's the pass rusher from Alabama? Why can't I remember?
Dallas Turner.
Is Dallas Turner going in the top 10, you think?
I'd say 2 tackles will go in the top 10.
Yeah,
I feel pretty confident in that. Yeah.
Baldy thinks Fuaga is going to go high.
Him at the left guard spot, man.
For a year, for just like 1 year, wouldn't hate it.
I heard he's a right side guy though, so I think long term he would be like a right tackle, Paris back to left tackle if that's what you went with.
But you could go into 2024 just with a nasty group.
But your offensive line just looks a lot better regardless. I mean, I don't care where you put those pieces. Like if it's Paris at left tackle and probably Fuaga, Paris and Fuaga on one side, that'd be pretty badass.
The Latham, the Chargers kind of connection too, like can't be ignored. And we talked about it the other day, and I remember thinking back to like who gave Michigan issues up front where their pass rush couldn't dominate. It was Bama, and and a lot of those coaches from Michigan are on the Chargers staff now, so I could see them becoming infatuated with Latham. After Alt, I do think it's like, kind of pick your preference, who fits your play style, but I think Latham's a lot of people's OT 2 or 3 right now, which is crazy. Baldy brought him up too. Like the fall from grace for Olu Fashanu is pretty wild.
It is, just because he has baby Kenny Pickett hands. I saw Agent 47. I've heard Brock Bowers. He's coming back up. Are you hearing any? Are you seeing any of the Brock Bowers? And that does like that's good for the Cardinals. I mean, if hopefully it's when we're talking about the 27th overall pick, but you put a tight end in the mix already with 4 quarterbacks, maybe 5 if people are buying into the Michael Penix Jr. stuff. They're going to get a really good player at 27, and Baldy's saying there's 8 potential first round tackles. I mean,
it's criminal to pick a tight end top 10.
Here's what allows you to do. You get Marvin at 4. Let's hypothetically say they don't trade down, and you're playing with house money suddenly because you don't have to hope and pray that a receiver falls to you at 27. So you have Marvin at 4. And then, as you mentioned, then you go with the 4 or 5 QBs. I think Penix will go before 27. So you got 5 QBs, you got a tight end, and then you got all the rest of the receivers that are going to go, including Brian Thomas and maybe Ladd McConkey. We all become big Ladd McConkey fans. Please get drafted ahead of 27, right? There's a good chance you're going to get one of the best, if not the best, interior offensive lineman at 27. Probably OT 4, 5, or 6. Cornerback 3 or 4. Defensive tackle 2 or 3, or pass rusher 4 or 5 at 27. That's pretty good living.
Yeah. No, it's not bad at all. I mean, especially when you look at how they've approached this offseason and how they've navigated so far. Because I was thinking about the interior of the defensive line, like as much as, and you had this source saying, Byron Murphy, they really like Byron Murphy, right?
They do.
But you think about the defensive line right now, it's like You got Tonga, who's going to be probably your starting nose. And then you've got the two guys you added, Justin Jones and Nichols. And then you re-signed Collier. And then Dante Stills is healthy. And they've got Roy Lopez still on the roster who's expendable. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think between Lopez and maybe Collier and possibly Stills, like, they could be expendable for a first-round pick type. But it's a crowded room already for defensive line.
Well, Darius Robinson at 35 would just be the assurance that I think we all would need. Like, that's kind of the perfect acquisition there. But what does it tell you if they do that? You better get an edge rusher in the first round.
Yeah.
Because the edge rushers they haven't addressed it at all. Like, you have the same group that you had last year that had 1 sack in 7 weeks. Yeah. I think it's, what are the two positions they haven't addressed this offseason? The two that we're all connecting the dots, edge rusher and wide receiver. And as much as I love these defensive linemen, I think they should take one early. 35's in play, 27 potentially. Like, if Latu's there, if Jared Verse is there, somebody later in the first round, I think you can't force it, obviously. And I think interior offensive line is also in the mix. But
I saw
you got to get Marvin first, and then everything else falls into place.
Saw footage of Graham Barton running his 40. He's
insane.
He's a big boy. He moves really well.
He's the Hulk.
Yeah.
He's the third most athletic RAS of all time of any interior O lineman, out of like 2,000 or something like that. 9.99.
And Baldy was saying yesterday, he told you he's got center options. He could play center down the road. I mean, they're going to be in a good spot, 27. They really are.
We're going to have a list of guys on draft night, assuming they take Marvin at 4. If they don't, they don't. But that late first round pick that they have, you can start putting together a list of guys like 5 to 7 deep. Like, I was doing my mock draft, and there were guys at the top of the second round that I would have no problem taking at 27.
Yeah. Rose Jenkins, if Newton is there at 27, it's a crime not to take him. Newton, the thing with Johnny Newton, and Baldy said he's his top defensive tackle. He's not working out until the 16th. That's a long time to go for teams to get like a true idea of what they can kind of get their scouts on him.
And that, again, as much as I love Newton, Cooper DeJean's just now trying to work out.
Yeah.
That's the quickest way to get fired by an owner, is if you take a guy and they were injured during the draft process and we used the top pick on them and they were injured their entire NFL career. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. You will see teams, if they don't have to, defer to guys that were healthy during the draft process and their tape matches up. It's just easier for them to wrap their arms around that. Who can afford to do that? The Cardinals, who have multiple picks. That's why you want 11, 23, 27, 35. It's like, okay, we can take a Newton or Cooper DeJean or somebody who maybe doesn't have the ultimate clean bill of health. Look at last year. They took Garrett Williams. He wasn't ready till October, and he's going to be starting cornerback this year. Michael Wilson, who had injury concerns his entire tenure at Stanford, missed some time this past year. Like, they are not afraid to do that, but I'm with you. Like, I don't think Newton gets to 27. I think Newton could very well be the first defensive lineman to take it. I don't think he will, but like, we know Detroit's sniffing around. Houston had a lot of interest before they traded down. So those are the two defensive tackles that I think unequivocally are going to go in the first round. So usually if that's the case, like, they're going to go early.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of Chop Robinson in the chat.
Chop at 27 would be great.
Yeah.
Marvin and Chop back-to-back, 2 Big Ten darlings, would love that.
Yeah. Just wasn't as productive as you wanted at Penn State. But
I could see Latu being there too.
Yeah.
I really could.
Johnny would love that.
Well, listen, that's a tough sell for your boy, Damon. The production was great, but he was already forced to medically retire once. Like, is this going to be a
Jalen
scenario
Phillips
in which
was forced to medically retire too, and he's a really good football player. Jalen Phillips, Dolphins took him a couple years ago in the first round.
What was his issue?
Concussions.
Gotcha.
And his Achilles exploded, but it was different. Different part of the body.
MetLife, man.
Do it. Yeah.
Nothing you can do about MetLife.
Yeah, they should do something about it. Oh, man. Hit that like button for this. It's great to be back. Having everybody here in the chat. You guys are electric today. Deuce, $2 super chat. Alt plus Johnson on K1's Blindside win LFG. Let's go, Jobo.
It's sad because I almost have to actively root against Joe Alt because I want Marvin so much, but like he was my like preference most of the year because I think Marvin was a possibility, and now the Cardinals are gonna like pass on both he and Marvin to trade down. Like that's pretty nuts to think about. Like all the players we were romanticizing during the year, like just don't have any of them available at 11. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Hopefully not the reality we have to decipher.
Tomorrow it's going to be 22 days. We're almost inside 20 days, almost 3 weeks to draft day. Cannot wait for it. We will keep everybody updated if we are able to expand a little bit. But beyond grateful for everybody that's already purchased tickets, is locked in their spot for the draft party, food, drink, vibes, and big time picks. Franchise changing picks are going to be going down that night at Gila River Resort and Casino. Johnny, cannot wait for it.
Yep. Like this video. Again, the goal today, 500 likes on this video. You help us grow. The bigger this podcast, the better this podcast.
500 people in here right now. If you haven't done so already and just hit like, we're there. We're automatically there.
How about this? Danny Redbirds, friend of the program, super chats, everything. Thank you so much, Danny. $4.99. Guys, at what exact point do we lose the draft, in your opinion? Kick rocks. Kevin? Is that Steve Keim? Who is that? Kick rocks. Kevin. I'm sorry. Kick rocks. Kevin. Yes, Kevin O'Connell. If we lose the draft, Danny, if they trade down to 11 and they take a marginal talent, like in reference to what they could have in the top 10, like a Quinnen Mitchell or somebody like that, and then they just go chalk in the 20s. And Quinnen could be a great player, but on draft night, I think they lose the draft if they don't get one of the big 3 receivers or Joe Alt. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Look, if they just kind of play it safe and they take, a couple just safe picks in place of taking guys with such unbelievably high upside, and that's what this draft has a bunch of, it's going to be tough to sell a fan base that has been shown 8 wins over the last 2 years.
More breaking news with the Arizona Cardinal visits here. You can add one to your list. We talk about chalk and what that would look like at pick 11, Bo. J.C. Latham is visiting the Cardinals today with a top 30 visit. The left tackle for the Alabama Crimson Tide is joining the likes of Marvin Harrison Jr. on a facility team visit today. You're not taking J.C. Latham at 4. He's not making it to 23 or 27. You would take J.C. Latham 11th overall. So shield your eyes, folks that are holding the line. Maybe bust out some more rations. It could be a long night.
We're halfway there. We've got 15 confirmed top 30 visits right now. And the latest is according to Adam Schefter, had that report, right?
Yes, Adam Schefter, J.C. Latham visiting the Arizona Cardinals today.
A lot of top tier talent, but that's what happens when you have a lot of top tier picks. 6 within the first 90 selections in the NFL draft. That's what the Arizona Cardinals have. They're going to be sitting good, eating good, draft night, day 1, day 2, and day 3. We might have to do a day 3 like watch along. I know that's our families don't want to hear that, but might have to do it.
It's fine. I like having fun. I'm all for it. Every time I try to end this show today, more breaking news hits. So maybe third time's the charm, or they're going to make the trade as I sign us off here. But again, like this video, subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. Tell us the kind of trade package you'd want to see in the comments down below. And while you can tell Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings to kick rocks, great to have my dear friend, co-host Bo Brack back in the fold here on a Football Tuesday. Damon Dog, producer extraordinaire behind the mic. I am Johnny Venerable. This has been the best, the premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. We're back mañana. PHNX Cardinals is where it's at. We will see you then. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.